Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I'm really excited. I have a very special guest. I have been trying to get this person on the podcast for probably like 2 years now. Really excited though. We've got John Lea, who is the owner of Decksouth. They are located in Marietta, Georgia, doing outdoor living, building decks. He has built a phenomenal company. He is very well known in the decking industry. Is definitely an influencer, thought leader, visionary, someone who I've looked up to for many years. Really excited to have you come on today, John. It's a long time coming, but welcome to Builder Stories.
Eric, man, it's my honor. It really is. And I'm sorry it's taken so long for me to get on here. I really appreciate the invite and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no worries at all. I know, can be busy and scheduling, but, why don't you kick us off with just give us a little bit of background. I mean, how did you get into construction, to building decks? What led you to start Decksouth in the first place? And when was that?
Yeah, man, great question. So, I think it goes back, I have to put a little context behind it, I think, to show how I made the decisions I did. When I look back on it, I was very fortunate to grow up on a farm in East Tennessee. And so I think in doing that, I kind of understood what hard work meant at an early age, not even understanding that wasn't what everyone went through. In middle school, my father got transferred to Atlanta, Georgia. And it was a little bit of a culture shock for me. Because on the farm, I had one neighbor that was my aunt and uncle, and my cousins. We moved into a neighborhood in a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia, called Roswell, Georgia. When I was 12, my father said to me, "Hey, you need to get a job. You need to make some money." And I was like, "Okay," but I was never. It wasn't like, "Hey, let me go find something to work." I said, "What do you suggest?" He goes, "Well, there's a lot of yards in this neighborhood. Why don't you cut grass? You can use the lawnmower." And we'd come again from a farm. So the tractor, the Maggie Ferguson tractor got, left there, and my father bought a Toro push mower. And so I was able to use that to start my first business at 12. And so I went to Kinko's, did some flyers, put them in mailboxes, and I would cut during the week. I didn't have a whole lot of friends right away because I was kind of getting settled in, and so had baseball practice, had wrestling practice, but worked around those. And at the end of a Sunday, I'd sit here and look at my, in my hand, and I'd have somewhere between $400 and $420 in cash in my hand from cutting grass. And so I knew early on, I think, the value of a dollar and what it meant to go and exchange labor for a dollar, my time for money. And I didn't know any different, right? And so probably that kind of set me into motion early on without even knowing it. And I really appreciate my father for finding the space to actually, encourage me to do that, and then be willing to. I remember at the time he had a company car, and we'd fold the Toro over, throw it in the back of his black Pontiac Bonneville, put the weed eater in there, and he'd take me down the street, and I'd have this yard and that yard to cut, and he'd say, "How long are you going to be?" And I'd say, "I'd come back and get me in 3 hours." And if he wasn't back in 3 hours, well, guess what? I sat there and watched the birds. I didn't look at my phone. There was no, whole different time, right? So anyway, as I came through high school, I was never like this A student. My parents put me in testing, I think, my junior year in high school, and they came back and said, "Hey, he's probably going to work with his hands. And I was always handy, like on the farm in outside of Chattanooga. I worked a lot with my grandfather because he worked the farm with us, and he was a carpenter by trade. And so I grew up either following him around the farm or back at his place. I would follow him around his workshop, his cabinet shop. So I always had kind of an affinity for working with my hands and doing stuff that way, carpentry. Loved the smell of wood going into his cabinet shop, and that was always it's still to this day gives me chills, when I walk into a cabinet shop and it smells like that. So went off to college, got out of school with a degree that I didn't really know what I was going to do. The biggest thing I took from that is I walked away with a piece of paper, so I actually was able to accomplish that, but. it was not really focused in on any certain career path. And so right out of college, I realized the best thing for me was to continue working with my hands. So I worked for a builder, doing this punch out, building him little decks, stoops, doing pre-wire for low voltage alarms and things like that. And then through a series of events, I got an interview with a gentleman that was opening up a deck company in Atlanta, Georgia, and the headquarters was out of New York. And so I helped him open up Atlanta, took that job. It was either $39,000 or $40,000 salary. I can't remember, but I got a laptop, a $500 truck allowance, and I think it was $39,800 was my. So I thought I'd hit the jackpot, working for. And so at the time, young, everybody around me that I was hiring, that I was working with, was older. Didn't really know what I didn't know, and I'm thankful for that time. That company, when they started going out of, when it was obvious that they were going out of business, and they owed me about $32,000 in reimbursement on a credit card, that's when I had a conversation with my father, and he was, "What are you going to do?" And I said, I don't know. I got bills to pay. I love doing what I'm doing." And that was really the birth of the idea of Decksouth. So as you know, I bolted from that company. 6 months later, they were out of business. And I'd like to say Decksouth started with like some burning bush, like, whoa, like this, massive, but it was simply, crap, man, I got bills to pay. I got apartment rent, I got truck payment, I got this, I got that. What I appreciated about that first job was the reality that, wow, you can actually make money building decks. And so that opened my eyes to an industry that I didn't even know existed. So I'm very thankful for that. But that was the birth of Decksouth, and that we incorporated in August of 1998.
Oh, and that's an incredible story, John. I didn't realize that you had actually started your first business at the age of 12. I mean, I knew you grew up in a similar environment like I did. I mean, my dad, serial entrepreneur, business owner, convinced me, hey, you got to go get a job. I got a job at the age of 14, which, I thought was awesome. But now hearing you started your own business at the age of 12, like, man, that's even more incredible.
Well, let's be honest about it. It's hard to call it a business. It was, hey, I have a lawnmower and we'll cut your grass. And I need some payment for it. But yeah, no, yeah. So I think we all learn at an early age what that's about, whether it's a lemonade stand or a grass cutting business, right?
Absolutely. I think it's such a great, experience for all of our children, to also hopefully follow suit one day to learn, hard work, you can earn money, you can, then buy the things that you want. Like, we can't just, have handouts and be given things. Like, you got to earn it. And I think that, that's something that I fear is missing a lot in some of the younger generations growing up now is the value of hard work and, putting in the time and the effort. And, I love your upbringing and your story there. I think it, really means a lot.
Eric, I appreciate that, man. I'll share this with you. I was talking to my wife this morning about being on your podcast, and, we were talking about cutting grass at 12 and starting that. And we were actually talking about her journey too. And I think this is for us as parents, parenting our kids, and we got 4. Her first job was at 13, and it was not because her parents told her she needed one, but it was because she didn't come from money, and so she wanted to be able to buy clothes that maybe some other kids wouldn't make fun of at school, and so she needed to go do that, and so that was her motivation. And I think when you get certain things instilled in you as a child, they don't go away. And no matter how old we are, somewhere inside us is that little kid still, right? And as parents, I think the best thing we can do is try to provide for our kids in a way in which it was better than where we came from. But that's a slippery slope, because at the same time, necessity is a strong force, right? And when you have to do a certain thing, you have to work hard to do whatever it is you need to do. It sure does teach a good work ethic. And so I know as a dad, you probably deal with that as well. Just making sure we're teaching the right things to our kids, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just funny side story here. My son actually yesterday he brought me a card that he made for me, and on the front it was from Carter Fortenberry to Eric. I love Job Tread and my dad. And then on the inside, it's like, I love Job Tread, especially because of you. I love you. And then he drew like the Job Tread logo somehow. I don't even know how he like actually got it really good. Our art director maybe impressed with it. It was just like, it just meant so much to me. And he said, Dad, like, I just love seeing, how you've created this company and how hard you work. And, I'm always worried that like I'm working too hard and I'm not devoting enough time and I'm not there for him. And, it's just my own, like, I want to be the best at being there and being that father. But it also warmed my heart to know that he sees that I'm putting in the effort and I'm working hard and that I'm building something. And it's like so meaningful to the point where like he sees my passion and love and like now he's loving it too. And that's just like, that's so cool, as a father to see that, it really warms my heart.
Bro, I mean, hey, that needs to be in a glass case on your wall, right? That needs, and kudos to you and your wife for creating that environment at home where Job Tread it comes off the tongue as a positive. It's not oh, Dad's at work again. Oh, Dad's it's not a negative. It's obviously a positive, or else he wouldn't say that. So, good job on you.
No, I appreciate that. So I'm curious, when you first started, Decksouth, back in 1998, I mean, like, were there challenges that you faced that like you just didn't expect or didn't realize would be so hard? Like, what did you find to be the most difficult thing of starting this business?
Yeah, good question. My father quizzed me early on and said, "Hey, what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge?" This is early on in business, first 6 months or so, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably going to be finding the clients." He goes, "I don't think so. I think you'll find those. It's going to be managing people." I'm like, "What? No, I get along with everybody. I'm fine. Yeah." No idea what he was talking about, right? That's been the biggest challenge, right? Certainly, finding the right people to have the right seat on the bus. Not to be cliche-ish, but that certainly is it. Early on, we floundered for a little bit for the first year and a half, 2 years, whatever. I had a fireman that worked with me, so he's 2 on, 3 off. And when we worked together, we were pretty productive. When I was swinging the hammer by myself, it was a little less productive. But at night, I'd stick my head under a hose bib and put a Decksouth shirt on and go ring doorbells and around where we're working and try to drum up sales. But when I hired my first true employee, Marcelino Rincon, end of year number 2, that's when I was able to pull away a little bit more and try to go sell more and create more of a buzz to hire us. Marcelino's actually still with us, but I think that no doubt about it, a challenge that I really didn't know that I would have because I was too young, too dumb, whatever, to understand that managing, partnering up, leading, being on a team with other human beings that have life going on in their world as well, it would be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, I think it definitely takes a lot of time and experience to really understand and appreciate how important every single person is and making sure that you bring in the right people. It's not about just putting warm bodies in seats. It's about, building a team of people that you trust and you want to spend your time with and will represent your brand and your company and do right by your clients. I mean, like, I think that's like some of the secret sauce of every great successful business is it's the team that you put together is what will make or break you.
100%, man. You know it. I mean, and that's it. Like we've all heard the term, an entrepreneur, which is inside an entrepreneur's business. And, Inc. magazine says it's either 3 or 4% of the United States population is entrepreneurs that have a successful business, and they define it as over 5 years. So when you look at that that's a pretty small percentage. And I've said it before, is it because, at some level, my naivety was what allowed me to start a business. Like I was just like, hey, failure is not an option, throttle down, let's go. There was no other option. And but when you do that and you're the head janitor and you're the first at the party, the ones that you have to find are the ones that want to build a business inside your business and be entrepreneurs, right, inside the business. Because at the end of the day, the business Job Tread is not Eric Fortenberry. It's the team that you've built along with you. It's not Decksouth is not John Lea. It's every bit as much as every individual in the company as much as it is me. you and I just happen to be the first at the party, right? We're like, hey, here's a party, let's go, right? We just
Yeah.
happen to be the first one. We brought the keg, right? And then we're looking for who's going to tap it, and who's taking the money at the door, and we got them, whatever, So
Yeah. Have you always, or kind of what are your thoughts on, hiring full-time employees versus, leveraging subcontractors? I know there's a lot of debate, there's pros and cons to both, but, how do you manage your team?
Yeah, we have a mixture of both, right? We're 60% sub, 40% W-2 in the field. Now everybody in the office is W-2, but I think it's individually based. As parents, we love our kids the same, but we can't parent them the same. The way my daughter processes information and deals with discipline is completely different than the way my son does. If I treated them the same, I'd be failing one of them at some level, right? I've got to adjust with them both, and so I think that plays into being a good team player in business, right? Like, I mean, there's some, there are, I think there's plenty of businesses out there that run truly sub, and that's great. I think there's a luxury of that because you've got a fixed cost and you've got the built-in ability for, if you've got the right sub, they're running their business inside your business. You're building that umbrella big enough where everyone underneath it can realize their dreams. And I think that's what our job is at some level. But I don't think it's, there are those that would rather be a W-2, and they are not the kind of individuals that burn clocks. They're the kind of individuals that they see everything as if it's their business. So if there's any inefficiency going on, they raise their hand and go, hey, there's some inefficiency over here. We got to do something else, That's a true team player as a W-2 employee, because they buy in and they realize and they are part of moving the flag forward, wearing the flag, moving the brand forward, doing it in an efficient way. There's others that are subs that are like, hey, they wouldn't be the kind to put them on a clock because that's just not going to incentivize them. They need more, to be incentivized a little different, and running their own business inside yours makes the most sense. I think in the trades, right, it boils down to a few things. You look at the roofing industry, it would be impossible for roofing companies to have nothing but W-2s when you have a workers' comp percentage at 72%. So for every dollar they give their W-2 employee, they got to pay out 72 pennies to workers' comp. They've got to have sub crews that do the work so that there can be layered scenarios and coverage that makes sense to run a business. Because so much, but so much about the red tape is not geared towards small business. Right. And so it's very challenging, especially in the early stages, to come out of the gate profitable when you're having to look at, things like workers' comp, general liability, how you're going to run your team. Are they truly a W-2? Are they truly a sub? And so anyway, long story, but for long answer to your short question, but we run both.
Yeah. And
I don't think there's I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think there's a blanket right answer. Some run all W-2, some run all 1099, combination of both. Just whatever works for you.
It sounds like too, just like most people, early on you were selling the jobs, building the decks, doing all the work, wearing all the hats. When did you realize that you needed to, build that team and bring that first person on to essentially replace part of your responsibility so that you could focus on, sounds like you went and started focusing on sales more. Like, how did you sort of make that leap?
Yeah, it wasn't until, I still remember, it wasn't until 2007. There was kind of this moment that for me personally, it was kind of call it whatever, a monumental moment. That we had a gentleman in Little Rock, Arkansas reach out to us and ask if we could travel to Little Rock to build a project. At the time, we were doing a ton of E-Pay decks. Our watertight system was different than others, and he had found us in a publication, and so we decided we were going to travel out to Little Rock, Arkansas, and build this for the gentleman. I had to come back. We sent everything out there on a flatbed LTL. We went out there in trucks and trailers. You stayed at one of those hotels that had kitchenette and all that. I had to jump back on a plane and come back a day early, and I had my tool bag with me, and I was at the airport, and they were like, "Hey, you're gonna have to check that." And the plane was boarding, and I had this monumental like moment with myself. I went over, I found this trash can that was going out to the part of the tarmac. It was a little bigger trash can, and I literally had this moment like, okay, I put my hammer inside my carry-on to see if I could get that in, but you know, my speed square, my belt, everything, I just dropped it right in the trash can. And I said, if I'm going to be beneficial to this company, I got to leave that there. Because my best foot forward for the company was not swinging the hammer. I'm a pretty good carpenter, actually. But I got some amazing carpenters that I've hired over the years that work circles around me and love doing it. And so let me go try to drum up business while you do what you're really good at, and I'm pretty good over here. So it was like a mixture of like, do I go hybrid, half and half? And so it was a moment for me to just kind of have that realization that if I was going to serve my team best, I needed to stay out of the field. Now, up until that point, I'd been back and forth, right? But I'd never really committed one way or the other, and that was kind of it for me in realizing that I needed to make that change. I think it happens different for everyone. You know, I mean, there's some guys in this industry that are just phenomenal carpenters that that are business owners that will probably choose to, at some level, stay in the field, you know, because that's their strong suit, that's their skill set, right? And I applaud them for that. I think we all just got to figure out our lane, right? I don't think there's any right answer. As much as I tried to find a book at Barnes and Nobles on how to run a deck company, the only thing I could find was Business Plan for Dummies that helped me write a business plan. There was no other book to find that was like, here's how to build a custom deck business, right? We're all writing the book, so to speak, as we go along.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like a lot of people start to feel this pressure that they need to, you know, do more on the business, and they need to, you know, it just naturally they have to sort of go be the CEO. That's your typical, like, I'm the business guy, but like that's not the case. Like, I think the most important thing you can do is figure out, what are you passionate about? What is going to get you up out of bed every single day where you're going to be able to just do your absolute best, and everything else, you know, you need to find people who can complement your skill set and who can join your team. And, you know, it's not just about, you know, one person, it's about the whole, and making sure that you put the right people in the right seats who can do excellent work at every single function of the business that needs to be done. And, you know, look, if you're the guy who's going to crush it in the field, and I know a lot of people who they're the owner, but they are still in the field building the tools, but they're not relying on also being the salesperson and the project manager and doing the bookkeeping, doing the marketing. Like, they have put other people in place where they found companies to partner with who they can, you know, rely on them to make sure that those functions still get done. And hey, man, however you do it, at the end of the day, as long as somebody is doing it and you're doing it great, you know, more power to you. Figure out how to live your life and do what you love.
100%, man. That was some. You dropped some bombs there. That's all. That is absolutely true, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about the trades is that there is no set. You can only do it this way, or else you're going to fail. Really, because I can show you companies that do it this way, this way, this way, this way, and this way, and they're all profitable, and they're all doing some really amazing things. They've just decided to do it a little bit different. And so I think the beautiful thing about the trades is that there is a sense of customization, manipulation, if you will, that you can do to your business to make it fit your skill set and how you want to function. And I think that's a beautiful part of the trades.
Absolutely. So tell us, what's your team look like today? I mean, kind of who do you have and what roles? And
Yeah. So we run EOS, right? We run Entrepreneur Operating System. We run it through our implementer, our coach is Chris and Amy Breen. They're part of Legacy Academy, and they bring the EOS template to our industry. We started EOS before we joined up with them. COVID hit. We had to do it virtually, so we canceled it and let it sit for a while. Part of our success is, I believe, today, based on the fact that we're running a template that's tried and true. Anybody that does any research on EOS and what Legacy Academy is running and other companies out there running is, it's a well-oiled template to run your business, right? Those guys did a good job creating that years ago. So for us, we had a state of the company meeting early 2024. And as I looked around the room, I think there were 54 of us in that room. Now, that's not, as I said earlier, that's not all W-2. That's a combination of W-2, 1099. My electrician that's been with us 16 years, he's a 1099. He works for us and works for another remodeler, basement remodeler. We've got, right now we've got 4 full-time carpentry crews. We're about to add a 5th. We've got 2 paint crews. We got an electrical crew. We got 2 plumbing crews. We got 2 mason crews. And so we kind of cover all the trades because our builds are different than they used to be. Our name doesn't really say exactly what we do, but we've kept the name because it's got equity in the market. And that's what we've been told by some companies that we've asked, hey, can you do some research and figure out if we should change our name? And they came back and said, no, I'd stick with it. And I was happy to hear that. So the way I talk about us with our clients is, hey, look, in Atlanta, 88% of the homes are basement homes, so you're going to have a deck out of your kitchen door because you're 10 feet off the ground. So everything, the deck is the hub. It all starts with the deck, and from there we go out. We could tear down to a kitchen, to a patio, to a pool, to wall work, step over to a porch. It's all based on coming out of that door on the deck. And so by providing a full-blown backyard, as I sat in the room and looked out amongst the group, and we got Rigo, our pool crew. I've got, so we got 1 pool crew that digs, steels, and plumbs. Our plumbers do all of our plumbing on our pool. So masons do all the coping, tile work, and everything like that. And then we sub out our shotcrete and our plaster. But today, what our company looks like is it's a team of what I call artisans and professionals that we can look at a client. I can look at a client in the eye and say, look, we're not perfect, but there will be no one that works harder than us to give you exactly what we've designed you here. And when we're done, it's going to look just like this. So that's who we are. We're a team of professionals that span over several trades to build backyards.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I've been very impressed by the quality of the work, by what you all are able to accomplish, for your clients. And, it's clear that you built a phenomenal team. I have a whole lot of respect for Chris and Amy Breen. They have an incredible thing going with Legacy Academy, like what they have done, and how they're now giving back and helping others be able to implement, these systems and learn these lessons. I mean, like, I think that's an important lesson in and of itself, is that, like, you don't have to go at it alone. I see so many, business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders out there who they're struggling because they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand why, they're selling more, they're doing more, they're working harder, but they're not making any more money. And it's like, that's where, you can invest in yourself and invest in your team by, joining up with others, and by, finding a coach, finding a group who has a system, who can, you can learn from. Like, there's so many ways that, like, people can learn and improve what they're doing, without just, like, continuing to do the same thing over and over and not seeing any changes. Like, you got to do something different. And, I mean, it's the whole point of this podcast is, I want to, find people that will share what they're doing and how they've had that success. And, it's clearly working really well for you. And, I think you clearly have built a great team and have implemented a system that is, now makes, everything look like you got a well-oiled machine.
Well, perception's a beep, right? Like, as they say, I won't say the word here, but I appreciate that. You said a lot there, and I'd like to touch on a few of them. I think that what's interesting about our industry is as tradesmen and women, there's something, and I've said this before, and I don't want to offend anyone, but there's something a little bit, we got to screw loose anyway to get into the trades and run our own business. If 3, 4, 5% is the number of entrepreneurs that own small businesses in the country, only a very small percentage of those is in the trades. And then when you go into the trades, we're not talking about commercial where you manage the job. We're talking about residential trades where you manage the client first, the job second. So now you're dealing with personalities that's tough, and you got to be able to handle that in order to get to the finish line. So I think inherently as tradesmen and women that we may be a good technician of whatever we're doing, and now we're like, oh, we're going to start our own business. But that doesn't mean we're good business people, right? Just because we can build a good deck or whatever. But we're also the type of individual that probably doesn't ask for help a lot, because that's inherently in our character nature to go blindly into a business and go throttle down, let's go. Where I say my team laughs at me because we did a Colby assessment, and our coach said, John, you're the kind of individual that you jump off a building first and pack your parachute as you're going down. Like, oh, what do we got to do? Let's go, right? And and so I think some of that lends itself towards trailblazing in certain areas, but you got to have a team around you that can be real methodical and help with the step one. I'm like, step one, hey, let's skip to step four. It's like, whoa, we got to go 1, 2, 3 first. So I think as tradespeople, we have a tendency to have a tough time stopping and asking for help. Let me share a story, and so that's why I applaud Chris and Amy, right? So what they're doing, I think at first some people think is disingenuous because like they're not really trying to help. This is the trade. Like how that's not something that's not. Well, it is, and in my experience, it's been a great experience. So when we first joined, I had a few people go, "Hey man, at that time we'd been at it 24 years. It's like, you've been at this 24 years. Do you really need that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we all need that. It would 24 years or 2.4 years. Like you need accountability. You need I call it a shin kick, right? And actually call it something different, but kick me in the shins and remind me of what, please, right? Like, and that's what Chris does a real good job with, and Amy does as well. But I'll tell you a quick story. 2005, we started NADRA. 2004, we started NADRA, North American Deck and Rail Association. And I was thankful enough, blessed enough to be a part of that origination of how it started. And I remember we had our first meeting in Atlanta a few years later. And we had it at the Decksouth office. And we reached out to everyone in the market that built decks. And there were companies that, for the first time ever, I'd been in business 9 years at the time. For the first time ever, I was meeting some of my competition at this meeting. And Eric, I wish I had a tape recorder, a video recorder of that meeting. It'd be a big one, the one that you stick on your shoulder, back then, but it'd be a recorder either way. But I wish that thing was in the corner because, man, it was like dogs sniffing tails. All these we cleared out our warehouse and we had the NADRA sign and we had pizza and, Cokes and everything. And it was just a bunch of contractors, like just standing there looking at each other, not even knowing how to engage because it was so funny. Back then it was like, oh, we can't talk to each other. Trade secrets are going to be, trade secrets, schmeecrets, right? Like, really? Like in today's world, that doesn't even exist, right? So it's just interesting how we've evolved, and all for the positive. But by sharing that story, my point there is, I think as trades, men and women, we have a difficult time stopping and going, you know what? I could use some advice. I could use some help. I could use some whatever. And thankfully, coaching in today's world is something that's a commonality across the board and everything. And so I think people are more open to it. But my heart goes out there for those guys and girls that are struggling right now. And It looks like they're not, but they are, because we've all been there. I mean, dude, we've all been there. And I kind of get emotional about it because I know that there's been times in my business, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but like I can remember times when I literally rang a doorbell and I'm like, I got to get this contract. I don't know where we're going next week. I know it's a referral. I know we built Bob down the street. I really hope they really like us and we can get this thing done, because I don't know. It's Thursday and I don't know where we're going Monday. I don't know. I don't know. Like, or my guys, if we don't keep, our guys busy, they're going to find something else, right? Marcelino Rincon told me, it was probably a year into employment. He had several Fridays off because I just didn't have enough business for 5 days. And he came to me and he said, "Sir, I really need 5 days work." And I think that was the last Friday he missed, 24 years ago. I mean, it was like, hey, we got to cut grass. We're cutting grass. Hey, we got to move this from here to here. Whatever it is to keep our guys busy, our guys and girls busy, so that they can take a paycheck home. And for so many years, and I, again, hate to admit it, but it's the truth. I didn't get paid, but they did, right? They always got paid before me. Because I felt, I had the faith and the belief that it would turn around and it would get better. And you just do the next right thing. You just keep going. The plan's the same, right? It doesn't change because someone says, no, I don't want to have you build a deck. You just keep going, right? And then eventually you look up and you go, oh, well, okay, now we got 6 weeks of work lined up. And oh, wow, now I got 6 months in. And then you take a little deep breath. And then I was talking to Jack over at Deck Tech yesterday. He's been in the business 26 years, 28 years, longer than me. And they're in the middle of snow, and some clients are saying no. And, we're laughing because it doesn't matter if you're in it 26 years, 28 years, or 2 years. You still get nervous in the wintertime when people don't say yes.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of our business, right? We work outside. And so it goes up and down. It's the roller coaster. And so the one thing I've learned over the years, and I've said this before, is that we build the business on the valleys, not the peaks, on that roller coaster. And the 08, 09, 2010 recession taught me that. We were blowing and going. We had 2 locations, had our own lumber yard, important e-pay through the Savannah port. I think a container every 2 weeks. We were running through a truck of pressure treated every 5-6 days. I mean, we were going. We had like 12 crews, boom, 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 and all of a sudden, and it's like, whoa, what just happened? Like, it wasn't like a slow drip. It was like faucet turns off, no water coming out of hose bib.
Yeah.
And so that taught me, hey, as we build this thing back, as we settle into where we need to be long term, just be mindful that we're not building this thing on the peaks. We got to build it on the valleys.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, I'm a big proponent of making sure people are, building an annual budget, and they're planning for that, and they understand the cyclicality, of the industry and the type of work that they're doing. I mean, do you have, any advice for others out there who may not have sort of figured out how do you plan and prepare, for those months, for those times when, look, it's going to be slower. It may dry up. Like, how do you keep the business open? How do you keep the guys, with food on the table? Like, what?
Yeah, I think so. A couple things. I mean, the first thing I would suggest is you get a book by Michael Stone called Markup and Margin. Understand the difference between the two, because in the beginning I didn't. Right? I'd take a product and mark it up 1.4. We're making 40% margin. No, you're not. Ding dong. Understand the difference between markup and margin. Right? So understand that. Right? Read that book and find out where your overhead is. Right? Because people go, hey, what do you charge for this? Who cares? Like, what you charge doesn't mean anything to me, because I don't know what your overhead is, and you don't know what mine is, and our burden it could be the same, it could be different. So know where that is, and work on a budget. The budget side of things is challenging at first. You're like, I don't know. Well, do what we call around here an SFD, a shitty first draft, right? And that came from Breen, but it's a term that we use often. Like, just get started. Just start on something, right? Activity is everything. Action is everything. Don't stay stagnant. That's where death. We're either growing or dying every day as individuals and businesses, and that doesn't only mean growth is revenue or sales. It could be just improving your processes. So I'd get real serious about understanding the difference between markup and margin, understanding where your overhead is, understanding where your number needs to be, because heavy sales can hide heavy sin, right? Like, you can be blowing and going, and all of a sudden things slow up in a couple of years, and you look around and go, crap, we didn't even make any money we were just going, but stuff was coming in, and we didn't have, we weren't even looking at P&Ls. What's a P&L? I said that to a guy one time. He's like, what's a P&L? I'm like, bro, you've been running your business for 5 years. You don't know a P&L? Like, come on. Now, the problem with the P&L, I've always said, is that's running your business through the rearview mirror. You can't course correct with the P&L. It's done, right? You either learn you made money or you didn't make money, but you can't make a change. So you got to drive that budget. And shameless plug here, but it's the truth. That's why I love the budget function of JobTread, right? Like, that's what I love about running JobTread in our business, is focusing on the budget and what did we build out the project to look like, so that we can set our markers and understand, are we hitting those as we go through the build. So yeah, we could talk for hours about that, right? But I think the real simple answer to anyone that's out there that's wondering, do they know their numbers? If you're wondering if you know your numbers, you don't know them.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people that will take you under their wing, whether it's a paid coaching gig, whether it's somebody that you could simply take to dinner on a regular basis or buy a cup of coffee on a regular basis and just kind of pick their brain. It's on you, though.
Yeah.
Just like it was to start your business, it's on you to figure out your business. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to come to save you, right? It's going to be you and you alone to figure it out. So lean into it, be okay with it, and figure it out. And then things will make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, I think the number one, biggest issue that I see is that people don't understand their business. They don't understand the numbers. They don't know what they're actually making and what their overhead is, what they need to cover. And I'd also say, like, you got to understand cash flow. So many people think that just because they got, some money in the bank, that's their money to go spend or pay themselves or do whatever. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Like, you need to understand, the money coming in, may need to go right back out the next day. Understand your liabilities and who you need to pay and where that cash is going. Like, don't just think because one day you collected a big check that you're sitting pretty and you're going to be able to weather the storm. Like, prepare for that. Understand cash flow. And I think it's just a huge lesson that so many people unfortunately get just get caught in it, and it can sink your business.
It can. And I think I mean, this might sound trivial, but I think building a reserve account is very important, right? Whether it's 0.5%, 1%, 2%, whatever, of every payment, every check that comes in, just put it over here. Because believe me, you're going to need it one day. You're going to need it. And it's going to be great that it's there, but don't pull from it until it's absolutely like, life and death. You got to pull from it. And that's something that's helped over the years is having that there when all of a sudden we don't have anything coming in for a period of time. We can pull from it. Not to get too hippy dippy here, but I subscribe to the theory that things in life, they're all energetic and they flow. And so if you're going to sit back and not pay this bill and be stingy about that, and I got to hold on to this and all that, things are going to stagnate in terms of actually revenue coming in your door. I think that we're conduits of. I believe the man upstairs, blessed us enough to put us in places that we are, and it's our job to be as disciplined as we can to honor that position. And so when things come and go in the business, they're supposed to come and go. When money comes in and then all of a sudden it's in a reserve account, and all of a sudden you got to spend it. Guess what? It's in the reserve account, so you can pay that bill. Not late, but on time, and you keep flowing. And guess what? When that goes down, you're going to build it back up, and it's going to come and go, right? It's like the ocean; it comes and it goes, and eventually, the idea is that it stays in motion, it stays there more than it goes out the door. But it's got to have that energy flow in order for that to be in the right hand, out the left hand, or else it bottlenecks, and all of a sudden nothing comes and nothing goes, and you find yourself stagnant.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you also touched on just, again, like the importance of surrounding yourself, with the right people, with this notion of community. And I think that's like one of the most impressive things that I've seen about just the decking industry in particular, is I think there is no other industry that has a stronger, community that has been built around it, where you see direct competitors like in the same area, sitting there working hand in hand, helping each other learn, helping each other improve their businesses. Like this notion of it's my competition, I can't talk to him, like that awkward moment you talked about at the founding of Nadra. Like you need to have this, this abundance mentality. Like there is enough work and enough opportunity for everyone out there. And if we can raise the quality of the industry as a whole, if we can help other contractors understand their numbers and be successful and quit just, lowballing every single deal when, you think you're doing yourself a service and you think you're helping your client get a better deal, but you're actually not. You're cutting corners and you're leading to, a crappier product that's not going to last like it should. And you're taking away money from your own family and your own team. Like that doesn't help anybody. That only hurts all of us, and it hurts the end consumer. Like we have to work together. And I think that's like one of the most, like the coolest things about what you all have created with Nadra, with the whole decking industry. I mean, you go above and beyond helping so many people around you. And I've seen it, I see it every day with what you're doing and how you coach others and help them. Like we need more of that. And so, I encourage everyone out there to go find your local groups and go join up and like meet people, help people, share, work together. And that's how we elevate, and we can all win and do better, overall than just, you don't have to be out there fighting just for yourself. Like there's this greater thing around us that I think really helps to deliver a great product and experience for the customer.
Amen, brother. Amen. Dude, you're absolutely right. Collaboration at the top, competition at the bottom, right? The abundance mentality is what I subscribe to, not the scarcity mentality. We talk about that around here, like it's literally a worldview on how you look at things, and it transfers your life, whether it's business or personal life. In the trades, when we look at the number of homes that are out there and we work on homes, we've got to all understand that there's plenty of business for all of us. I mean, the statistics are staggering just in the deck world. There's 33 million decks that come up for renewal every single year in the United States. And the metric on coming up for renewal is that it hits its 25th year. That doesn't mean that people are going to replace them, but every year that number is re-upping. And so there's plenty of business for all of us, right? And I'm going to give a shout out to a gentleman by the name of Bobby Parks. He was a big source of. I looked up to him. He was actually in my really shitty business plan that I wrote from Business Plan from Dummies. But he was in there as somebody that I wanted to model our company after. And at the time, he was running a national franchise here in Atlanta prior to starting his business. But he was instrumental, even maybe in times he didn't know it, that he helped me out. And there's not a day that goes by that I could say that I would ever be able to repay him. But let me share one story with you. I was on a sales call, standing in the backyard, and we were talking about what they wanted. And they kept referring to, at our other house, we had this. And finally I said, hey, where'd you guys move from? And it was local. And I said, oh, really? Who built your deck? And they said the company that Bob used to work for. And I said, and then they mentioned, we worked with a guy by the name of Bobby Parks. And I said, Rich, she goes, yeah, but can't get in touch with it. I called well, that company had gone out of business. And I knew he'd started his own company. I said, oh, he started his own company. Let me give you his number. And so I gave them his number, and I said, look, you need to call Bob because that's who you need to hire, right? And I didn't think anything about it at the time. It's just the right thing to do. That's who they needed. They already worked with him. He's phenomenal. Here's his number. You're missing his number because the company you used to work for, they went out of business and moved out of the city, so you probably have an old blah, blah, blah. Again, I talked about that some years later, and he brought it up, and he would have done the exact same with me. And there was no question. It wasn't like, oh, I got to act like I don't know. Like, what? That's not even, and I would tell you that I don't say that story for any accolades at all. I say it because if that was a positive thing, which I think it was, I've been paid back 10 times in spades in my life by others, including Bobby, right? And so it simply is just doing the right thing. You're right. Like we got to like chill. We got to step back a little bit and stop racing to the bottom. Stop trying to undercut. I mean, every time we as contractors ring the doorbell and we introduce ourselves, we're having to pay for the sins of shitty contractors that have screwed up in the past. And I hope one day that flips on its head because there's just so much quality going on out there. And I think we're moving in that direction. But yeah, it's sad to see some still look at it that way, and teach their own. But no. I don't know about you, but I see a movement where there is a whole lot more collaboration.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm curious. So when you think about, building this team that you've built and as you continue to grow it, how do you make sure that you find the right people? What is your recruiting process look like? How do you just make sure that they're going to embody, the values and be a great representation of the company and what it believes?
Yeah. So great question. I mean, there are onboarding things that we do. We do Colby assessment, right? That allows us to really understand the individual early on. I'll steal a quote from Seth Godin. I can't work with you until I work with you. And that's something I read that he said years ago, and it's so true. So we try to set up a one-day work environment where we pay the individual, but we get to see how they work inside our business prior to hiring them. I'd like to think we've got a phenomenal onboarding process, but it's got holes in it left and right? Like we just do the best we can. We have a series of interviews, right, where multiple people in the company interview that individual. There are small little tests that we do early on. Some things as simple as, we put out an ad, for a new employee, and the request is send an email, and in the subject line say this, and it could be hire me. But it's hire me with capital letters with 2 exclamation points. So when somebody just sends hire me, lowercase h, lowercase IREME, and that's it, okay, they're probably not a detailed individual, because we specifically asked, send hire me, all caps, 2 exclamation point. So there's little things, that we can try to do early on. Ask certain questions. We try to hire based on our core values, right? One of them is lifelong learner, right? Like we want to be surrounded by, in our Tuesday morning leadership meetings, I laugh because I'm finally a part of a book club after all these years of my life. We read these books, and each week we share, our thoughts about the chapter that we just covered. And so, if you don't want to improve yourself, you're going to work yourself out of a business around here, because you're going to be surrounded with people that are constantly trying to better themselves, to be the best version of themselves they can be, whether it's as a dad, a mom, a brother, sister, teammate, whatever, father, husband, wife, coach, whatever, or business owner, or carpenter, or designer, or salesperson. So I think for us, it's just getting simple about making sure that we hire based on our core values, and we go through that process. I am the worst at hiring. I've actually got some teammates that are like, you cannot hire, because over the years I've hired like, oh man, I met some great dude, because I see the positive in him. I think that's maybe could be a skill set, but also can be a real negative, where I see a situation and I flip it to the positive side. So I'll meet somebody and we'll talk and we'll go through an interview, and I'm like, yeah, but man, we could really help that person. They could be, and they come in and it's like 2 weeks later, I'm like, dang it, I should have known. And so I've done that too many times. And so I'm not allowed to hire by myself. So there's a process that we try to follow.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, that sounds actually very similar to our process. And what we found works well is, I mean, you got to take your time and make sure that, you're giving them, exercises, testing them. It's easy for me too. Like I feel like I can feel people's energy, and I can read the room, and I just, my gut kind of just is like, oh man, this person's great. But, thankfully we have a process that doesn't let me just bring anyone that I feel great about on immediately. Like we make them go through, whether it's someone on our sales team or customer success team or development team, like everybody has, these exercises where, you can test them. I love that, you say you hire them or pay them for a day to come work hand in hand, and like you get that opportunity to see what it's like working with this person. Like, are we going to gel? Are they going to be a good fit for the team? Like, it's easy for someone to come in and, just do an hour interview, and, who knows what they put on a resume, and they can say a bunch of things, but like, you got to be able to like know, like, does what they're saying match their abilities and their skills and the actions and who they really are? And so the more time that you can spend getting to know those people, at the end of the day, that you got to make sure you hire the right people. One wrong hire can cost you so much time and money. It can be a demotivator, to everyone else. Like you can't let that happen. And so like, I think you guys clearly have a very well, vetted process here that will help you make sure you're bringing the right people on.
Well, yeah, I agree. And I think so. And I appreciate you saying that. I think that the other thing that I want to point out here is, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm a firm believer in that. There's no company, no individual that is reinventing a wheel. It's already all been said, done, and invented. We just need to make sure that we're stealing like an artist. That's actually a book my wife gave me years ago. I can't remember the author's name. Anyway, it's called Steal Like an Artist. And it talks about the fact that when an artist looks at a painting, he can walk away from there and want to create that exact same painting, but it's going to be his take on that painting. Right? But he's been inspired by that, and he's going to steal aspects of the brushstroke and this, that, and the other. Steal, I guess you could say. But that's a well-known thing in the world of painting, I guess. And I think as business owners, if we're not doing that same thing, we're crazy, because success does leave clues. Like that quote that I just said about Seth Godin about, I don't work with you until I work with you. I think I actually read that through a Dan Martell book, right? And so the Dan Martell book, Bream gave me, right? So it's like, you can follow it back. And I think the thing is we just got to be receptive to things that have worked for others and see if they work in our business. Because again, if I wouldn't have read that quote and heard that, I don't know that we would actually implement that in our business, because I wouldn't even have thought about it. But it's like, genius. I don't work with you until I work with you. Yeah, let's do that, right? Something small and it helps with, oh man, if we hired the wrong person, it's like cancer. And it's hard to cut that out later on. The further it goes, the harder it is to actually remove that individual and take care of the collateral damage that happened during that period of time.
100%. So once you found the right person, you bring them onto the team, you get them onboarded. Like, what do you all do from a culture standpoint? How do you continually build the team and motivate everyone to want to keep working for you? And I mean, some of these people have been with you for a long time. How do you keep them there and keep them happy and motivated?
Yeah. I I think only recently in the last few years, I actually could put my finger on it. I don't know that I would have been able to answer a lot of those questions or any of those questions years ago. We don't have a whole lot of turnover, so maybe we're doing something right. And if I run it back and try to look at it, I think one of the things for me has been the guys in the field. I'd walk through a wall for them, when if any of them call me from the field, it doesn't go to voicemail. I drop what I'm doing and I go talk to them because they're calling to either make money or save money, one or the other. There's something going on in the field that the client's this, the client's that, the inspector's here. Obviously, project manager can't be, George is not available. So they're calling me. There's a reason for it, right? And so I think having a level of respect, treating them as good as you would treat yourself and anyone else, putting them first. I don't know if that's leading from the front, leading from the back. I don't know. They say leaders should eat first. Da, 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 da. I don't know about all that. I do know that everyone gets paid before I do, and it's always been that way. And thankfully, we're not in that situation that we have been in before. But I think it's treating people just the way you want to be treated. I think it's sharing the vision often. I'm definitely the visionary of the company. And so there were days that I would hold back my thoughts about how I feel because I would think, oh, it's too much. I don't hold back anymore. From whether it's, grabbing my phone and hitting Loom and doing a video and sending it out amongst the office chat group or the job chat group that's just got the crews that are on that job or that job or that job. It's sharing what's on my mind as soon as it's on my mind and I recognize it as something that needs to be shared. Because you can't read minds, right? I can't read my wife's as much as she thinks I can, and I sure wish I could, but we can't read minds, right? And so for me, if I'm going to be the one that is again the first one at the party that's carrying the flag, that's saying, hey, let's move in this direction, I've got to share that vision, right? And so with a teammate that comes on board, they get to see early with our core meetings. It's not just about Decksouth. It's, probably more the meeting is about the person more than it is the business, right? And I've never been a big stickler for, rules and regulations and it's got to be a certain way or and so if, family's first, right? And if somebody's sick, then guess what? That person better be, that parent better be taking care of their kid and Decksouth's going to be okay. We're not going to fall apart. Like you come back when you're healthy and things are healthy and everybody's good, right? And so I don't know. I don't know that there's anything novel or big idea there. I think it's just keeping the main thing and taking care of your team and treating them as good as you would want to be treated and letting the rest of it fall where it may.
Yeah, that's great. And it kind of leads me into one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well. I don't know if you know this or not, but I mean, I have seen and I have watched you and your business for many years, even before you joined us at Job Tread. I don't know, I think it was like 2022, but like as amazing as your work has been, as awesome as your team has been, I'm continuously impressed. But the thing that, I think I have learned the most from you and taken the most away is seeing how you're there for your family and your kids. I see the time that you spend at your kids' ball games and being there and showing up for them every single time that they need you. And I'm just like, how do you manage and prioritize your family? And how does the work-life balance, what does it mean to you? And how do you do it all? Because as I started earlier, I feel like I struggle to, I work so much and I'm like, I'm always striving. I think, what would John do in this moment? And, like I pushed a meeting up earlier so that I could take off today to go to my son's karate lesson because he's going to be getting a stripe and he's going to be sparring. And he told me, he's like, Dad, I would love for you to see this and be there. And I'm like, okay, I got to do whatever I got to do to make that happen. And I always think about you, John, and I've seen that. And it's just like, that's made the biggest impact on me. And I'm just curious, like, how do you do it?
Wow, dude, that's been maybe the biggest compliment I can remember getting in a long time. If I'm doing anything right as a parent and somebody's paying attention to that, then thank you for that. I became a father later in life. I was 38 before I became a father. And I think some of that helped in prioritizing what a father needed to look like for me. I had a great father, have a great father, and there was a role model there. But like all of us, we want to do, we want to do our own thing, right? And be the best versions of ourselves. I know that for me, what success is what you just mentioned. You've built a business that you can go see your son spar in karate, and he looks over and sees Dad. Because we don't get those times back. When my son was born, I had a friend tell me, hey man, the days will seem long, but the years will be short. And I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard, but it's absolutely true. It is so true. And so I want to make sure that there was a lot of things that I missed early in my 20s and in my early 30s as I was building the business. And I don't want to miss any of that anymore. So I personally have had to choose to prioritize sleep, prioritize getting out of the door early in order to get my personal goals achieved that I need to do to get my head right, so that I can be the best version of me that I can be for my kids, and then hopefully for my team. And so, yeah, that's. I don't know that I have a really good answer for that, Eric. Again, I appreciate you saying it, but the way I prioritize my family is, if I am not there for any of them and any of their activities, then I failed them, period. And that's not going to be allowed in my life personally. So I've got to figure out what that means. Does that mean the days that they don't have anything, I'm putting in 15 hours instead of 12? Whatever that means for the individual, it just is what it is. Does that, right? So I think it's being present. Shit, man, 80% of being a parent is just showing up, right? Like we think, oh, we gotta have our stuff together. No, we don't. We just need to be there, right? We need to be there because that's what they need. They need us there. And being a role model, right? The best we can be. I think when I realized, wow, I've got another human being that depends on me for their life, whether they live or die, their survival of life, things got real clear, right? I don't know. I probably said some really dumb things to some of my friends in my 20s and 30s when I wasn't a parent and they were. I need to ask a few of my buddies, some of the dumb things that I said, because you just don't know until you're a parent and you're holding your son or daughter and you're like, yeah, it's just so I think we all go through some of that at some stage in our life. And for me, I'm very grateful that there's a family around me and I can hopefully benefit them in a positive way. So I just try to stay focused on that.
Yeah, well, that's it's interesting. My wife and I were just talking about this yesterday, and you actually reiterated, I think, all of the points that she has also said. Is I need to prioritize my sleep. I need to be getting up early. I mean, I definitely I don't know. I stay up way too late. And I just I stay up too late. Sometimes, really late. I lose a lot of sleep. I don't sleep as much as I know I should. So I'd say, I'm taking those lessons away and being present. I mean, it's something that, we talked about how I need to make sure when I walk in the door every day, I've wrapped up whatever conversation or whatever I'm doing on my phone, and I need to put the phone away, put it, in the other room on the charger, and I need to make sure that I'm 100% present. And that's what I've committed to do, with her, with my kids, and I want to make sure that time is really, valuable time. And she said she's going to help make sure that, when I come in, we're going to get the kids, make sure they're off the TV or iPads or whatever they may do. We're going to really try to have more focused, intentional, family time, around the dinner table. It's just, you're right. I mean, life is flying by. I mean, my daughter's 7, my son is 6. I can't even believe it. I feel like it happened overnight. But your definition of success is exactly what I think is so important. It's the fact that you build a business, you built a team, and you are able to take the time that you need to go be there and to show up for your kids, show up for your family. I mean, that truly is. There is nothing more valuable, more important, than having that and having that opportunity. And so those are the things I'm taking away from this, John. I appreciate you reiterating all that and sharing that. I mean, it's great lessons, because you really have. You've made an impact on me. You've motivated me, inspired me to try to be half the dad that I see that you are. Coaching your son's teams and being there and showing up. Like it's incredible what you do, man. And yeah, I appreciate it.
I'll tell you this. I used to be and naturally a night owl. The way that I changed that in my life was I forced myself to get out the door, not just stay in the house, but get out the door early. And you do that enough, your body shuts down at night, right? I flipped the script. I am not naturally a morning person, but I forced myself to be because it has to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'll tell you a quick story. I wanted to make sure that this never happened again. When my son was probably 4, he was standing. I got him a little Decksouth shirt on. I got him a Decksouth. He had it on, and he's looking all cool. He had a collar and a little Decksouth, and he was walking around the den. And my wife said, "Look." And he had his hand up, and Shane's one of our team members, and he was like, "Hey, Shane, go ahead." "Yeah, Shane." "Yes, sir, Shane." Shane. And he was mimicking me because he had seen me on the phone so much talking to one of my teammates, and my heart broke. Some would say, "Oh, that's so cute." To me, it wasn't. It was cute, but the bigger thing was his memory of me at that moment was on the phone. And there's no way I can be present to my son when I'm on the phone, right? Yeah. And so being present. You just said something, intention. I think intention's everything. What's our intention? Like that's where beauty lies, I think, in life, is what is our intention? We can be successful or fail, but was our intention good? Was our heart in the right place? What is our intention? Because that's what truly will win the day. You show up with intention over and over again. Whatever that intention is, it works its way out. It rises to the top. Everything else filters away. There might be some cruxes here and there that you fail at, but the intention's everything. So I applaud you guys to be intentional. Good on you for put this down, put that down. Let's come together at the table. Let's be intentional about our time. I don't think as dads we'll ever regret that.
Yeah. Man, well, John, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of this with us. I mean, it's been a really awesome conversation. I know I've learned a lot. I hope everyone out there has been able to take away a couple nuggets from this as well. Just again, means a lot. I know you've taken time out of your busy day to make this happen, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Honored. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Look forward to seeing you.
All right, we'll see you soon, John.
All right, bud. See you.
See you. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.